After missing out on the dramatic Milton Williams saga earlier today, the Arizona Cardinals finally on the board during the tampering period. They got themselves Sweaty J. It's a reunion in the desert, and it's an emergency PHNX Cardinals podcast right now. I'm going to do my best at this live right now from PHNX Studios downtown. Brack hanging out with you. We will be joined by Johnny Venerable. We will be joined by Zach Berman. We're celebrating an emergency podcast because the Arizona Cardinals got off the schneid. They're off the bench during the tampering period. The team has made a big deal in the route of bringing in and reuniting Jonathan Gannon with one of his top pass rushers, Josh Sweat. He comes to the desert in the form of a 4-year, $76.4 million deal with $41 million guaranteed, and how it transforms the Cards pass rush room. It's exciting. What's up to everybody in the chat? Sam went digital. What's up, number one D-backs fan in Texas? Brett Dickinson, Eris, I see you. King Cam, Mr. Fat Gangster. Oh, for sure. Randall, Peter, Ozzy, Rafa. The squad's here. Everybody's excited, and this is on the heels of the Cardinals striking out, coming up short in the Milton Williams saga, which was every bit of that. They were right in the thick of things, but came up short as the New England Patriots had that NFL salary cap FU money and came over the top and made a big deal with the big man in the middle of the defense. But Cardinals, they're not going to come up empty-handed. They get the deal done with Josh Sweat. What's up, Rudy? What's up, Donnie? What's up, Josh? We'll get to your super chats here shortly, as well as Zach Berman, who covers the Eagles so well for our affiliate over in Philadelphia, PHLY. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Never ordinary. Of course, check out what's up on the board now at Bet365 and use that code PHNX. Shane Deef behind the Mac today. Damon Dog making his way back from Vegas. He can rest finally. He doesn't have to work out today. And Johnny Venerable, I can't confirm or deny this. He might be just stuffing his face with sweet treats as we speak. That's probably why he's not here.
We're not seeing it because of that.
But for those who don't know, Shane, we have been fasting. We have been abstaining from a couple of our own vices until the Arizona Cardinals make a deal. Myself, caffeine. I'm gonna ease back into this thing. I'm not gonna go over the top. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it as I pour cold brew after cold brew into my gigantic Circle K Polar Pop. I'm going to have my first pull of caffeine since February 10th, and God.
This is a huge moment.
This is a big moment. Look at this thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, easing into it.
Thank you, Josh Sweat. Thank you, Monty Austin, for it.
Oh, man. That's hitting like an illegal substance right now. I'm not going to say which one, but it gives you lots of juice, and that's what we have. I see Fabian saying trash-ass signing. Look, it's not a trash-ass signing. This guy was the top pass rusher on the free agent block. Does he have a ceiling as far as production? No, he does, but he's also not just some scrub, some ham sandwich that the Cardinals have been marching out at the position for the last 2 years and then some. So we're going to get some insight as far as who Josh Sweat is, what he's going to bring, and how he's going to make an impact. It's more than just getting after the quarterback, which is the sexy statistic that everybody wants to see from their pass rush room. The good thing is the Cardinals now have some upside there that they necessarily didn't have before the signing for Sweat. We'll get into the Milton Williams saga a little bit later. We'll also get into it with our upcoming guest here who's plugged in as far as the Philadelphia Eagles. We want to bring on Zach now. Let's do it. Let's not delay any longer. Let's bring on Zach Berman. Follow our guy, Z Berm. Covers the Eagles so well for our friends over at PHOI. My guy Espo getting me some caffeine. Zach, I had to abstain from caffeine for since February 10th because I was doing my part as far as holding the Cardinals accountable, making a big signing. They make the splash. I'm back, just dosing myself with caffeine. But let me ask you this, Zach. How does Josh Sweat impact the game in your opinion?
Oh, he's a true three down edge rusher, bro. I mean, he's someone who he can play the run, he can play the pass, he can beat you with speed, he can beat you with power. I mean, when you see the frame, this is what an edge rusher is supposed to look like, right? I remember talking to people when he was drafted. It's like he was built in a lab to play this position, and that you see that now. He hasn't been a prolific like sack producer. He's been productive. He had his best year came under Gannon, 11 sacks. If you look at it last year, the best, his highest total was in his career was the Super Bowl. He has 2.5 sacks against the Chiefs, matches a Super Bowl high. But I think what you're getting is a high level defensive end, edge, outside linebacker, high level edge rusher who can impact the game against the run, who can impact the game against the pass. I remember talking to Gannon about him 2 years ago, and I kept waiting for Gannon to talk about his pass rush. But Gannon talked about like the physicality, which is interesting because it's not something you're necessarily first thinking about Josh Sweat. He was like this athletic marvel coming out of Florida State, but the physicality is absolutely there.
The physicality, I mean, when you talk about all the tools you want from especially a JG Nick Rawlis pass rusher, it seems that Josh Sweat kind of checks all those boxes. He's kind of a jack of all trades, but is he a master of anything? Like in your opinion, what is his biggest, I guess, strength outside of just his true three down ability?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the athleticism coming around the edge, and the athleticism and the length coming around the edge. That's what always jumped out to me. I mean, even when he first got here, he was unrefined and he was kind of laid off the ball. But man, when he would time it up, you just don't see guys like that. And I remember when he was in the combine, 6'5", 240 something, 4'5", 40. Just he killed the combine, and he was a 3-year guy at Florida State, so he was so young. And this is the thing, it's not like me sitting there at training camp evaluating him. I remember talking to Chris Long, who was on the Eagles then. I remember talking to Lane Johnson about it, and all these guys were like, "Watch out for Sweat, watch out for Sweat," because based on like sheer talent, there aren't many guys in the league like that, and that's always the big thing for me there.
Again, and we went back and forth with him a couple weeks ago in Indy about his where he says that sacks is not a winning stack. He'd rather kind of create the pressure
Yeah.
that would create turnovers, right? He wants the ball. But as far as the sacks, do you see any upside left for Josh Sweat? As you mentioned, the career high under Gannon, 11 sacks in 2022 on their way to the Super Bowl. They fell short against the Chiefs. And then this year, the 10, including the playoffs. Do you see any upside, or is it just like we should just expect you can register this guy in anywhere from
Yeah.
like 7 to 11 sacks?
Well, I mean, first off, I always disagreed with Jonathan when he said that. I think sacks is I look at sacks like they're game changing plays, right? They're negative plays. You can have a pressure and the quarterback still throws it. When there's a sack, the quarterback's on the ground, right? It's a loss on the play. So I always disagree with that. I understand what Jonathan's saying, and to Jonathan's point, in the Super Bowl, Zach Bond's interception that doesn't show up as a Josh Sweat stat. Josh Sweat caused that interception with his pass rush. Like you go back and you watch the film, that was Josh Sweat's pass rush. That was Josh Sweat's hit, and Josh Sweat was the one who forced the Aaron pass. But to the original question, I mean, look, it's possible for Josh Sweat to be, a 12, 15 sack guy because he does get consistent pressure. But I think that the real big thing is making sure that he doesn't fade down the stretch. And there was a period of time from like from the middle of the 22 season to the middle of the 23 season. I think there were only two pass rushers in the league who had more sacks than Josh Sweat, right? But there's been 2 years in a row now where there's been he's kind of been stagnant late in the season, and he hasn't had the sacks late in the season. He's someone who I think that he gets a bad reputation for durability because he had this freakish injury in high school. He's been durable throughout his career. I mean, he's played at least 16 games 5 of the last 6 years. The one year he didn't, he played 14 games. But what I will say is he has worn down at least production wise, down the stretch. And I think it's important to know how to manage him. And I think that's where the background with Gannon will be particularly helpful. I might be less optimistic about how Sweat would do if he went to a locker room or a coaching staff that doesn't have any exposure to him. But I think the fact that Gannon has worked with him will work in Arizona's favor.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just kind of his snap percentage. He played 63% this previous season, 71%. That's up from where Gannon was
Yeah.
playing, where he had that career
Yeah.
high. Sack total, he's playing about 56%. So he'll probably fall into that. Cardinals, they love to lean into that rotation that they have there. There was reports of the knee, but as you mentioned, the durability. This is a guy that didn't miss games. He didn't miss practices. What type of player are they getting as far as just teammate? What's he going to add to the culture? It seems like he's just going to fit right in, just like Kazir White did.
Yeah, so the first part there, you're absolutely like the knee thing bothers him when that comes up, and I think it's ridiculous that that keeps coming up because it's these things that some like people in football are anchored to, but there's been no evidence. If you watch him, there's been no evidence that this knee injury he had in high school is keeping him from playing on Sundays. So it's been over a decade now, and yeah, it bothers him. You'll see when that keeps coming up, there's no evidence of that. As far as personality, he's really bright. I'll start there. He's a really smart guy. I mean, I did a story on him, 2 years ago. He builds computers with his bare hands, like from scratch. He orders the parts. He builds computers. I mean, he's texting me photos of these computers that he's built. It's like, um, I mean, it's brilliant. Like what he's a really bright guy, but he's also, I don't want to say he's like a different kind of guy. I don't think you're signing Josh Sweat to be like the leader of the locker room per se. I don't want to say he's quiet, but he's just kind of he's kind of his own person. He's his own spirit, if you will. Um, but he shows up. He plays hard. I think he cares. But he's definitely not like your rah rah guy. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're expecting him to be, if you're paying $18 million a year for him to be like the defensive leader, I wouldn't say that. If you're paying $18 million a year for him to be the guy who's getting to the quarterback and is affecting the game in so many ways, that's probably better for you.
Yeah. Post Super Bowl, we've seen the Eagles extend Saquon Barkley. They get Zach Bond. They keep him in there as well. What kind of made the Eagles not want to prioritize bringing back Sweat? Was it just that he's going to be able to command a huge market for himself? I mean, $76.4 million with $41 million guaranteed. Are you surprised by that number?
I'm not surprised by that number, and credit to Josh Sweat because anyone in the league could have had him last year. The Eagles were trying to trade him last year. It was like him or Hassan Reddick, and I don't think they were planning to extend either one of them, or at least at the number that the player wanted. Josh Sweat didn't really have much of a trade market last year, coming off of that 23 season, and so the Eagles brought down his number, and it was kind of he was poised to hit free agency, and he was honest. This was a big deal for him. He had never been on the open market. He signed a contract extension in like I think 4 or 5 weeks into year four for him. So he had never been a free agent. Changed his agent right before the Super Bowl, which I think shows you he was ready for this point. Yeah, I think the Eagles were ready to move on there. You can't pay everybody, and the Eagles are paying a lot of guys. They made a bad bet last year on Bryce Huff. They gave Bryce Huff $17.5 million. If it was up to them, they'd probably want that one back. But they knew there were going to be guys leaving this team. I mean, Milton Williams gets what, 25 million a year, thereabouts. Josh Sweat gets this contract. I think the Eagles were ready for this to happen more than anything else. So I would put it more in the camp of they can't pay everyone, and I don't think they were going to give Josh Sweat, a $3-4 million. Oh, I'm sorry, 3-4 year deal when they spent a first round pick on Nolan Smith 2 years ago. They spent $17.5 million on Bryce Huff. They like Jalen Hunt. My guess is one of their first two picks this year is going to be an edge rusher. It's just kind of the way they're building their roster right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it. Yeah, you brought up Milton Williams, and it's kind of part of our conversation because the Cardinals reportedly were in there until the bitter end, And then you've got, New England coming in over the top, given a guy who played under 50% of the snaps, albeit a impactful under 50% of the snaps, especially when you watch how he performed in the Super Bowl. But he gets $104 million and $26 million per season. I mean, you knew he was going to cash in, but that much? Did you expect that from Milton Williams?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in free agency. And so now 26 was a big number. I thought it was going to be over 20. I thought it was going to be somewhere between like 21 and 23. 26 is big, but when there's multiple teams in there and it's a weak class of free agents, I get it. The appeal of Milton Williams is the player that he can be as opposed to the player he has been, right? Defensive. He's a scheme versatile player who played. He's never played more than 50% of the snaps with the Eagles, and you're thinking, all right, if he takes on a bigger role, he can be a much bigger player. Well, Josh Sweat, you're paying more for the player that he's been. You're paying more for the known commodity rather than kind of the upside. So I think that's the big difference with the two.
Jalen Carter, his representation, he's going to be eligible after next season. I'm sure he's loving seeing that number, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think he's probably loving seeing Myles Garrett's number more than Milton Williams' number, right? I mean, I think they'll probably be going for like the 30s as opposed to the 20s.
Unbelievable insight from our guy, Zach Berman. Of course, make sure you follow him on Twitter at ZBerm and reading his work, PHLY. Even did some cross-training over at PHNX, gophnx.com. You talked about Josh Sweat, Milton Williams during the Combine. We really appreciate that. Go check that out. Get some more insight from Zach that you've already gotten here today. All right, enjoy the rest of the tampering, Peter, Zach, and we'll see you down the line, my man. Yeah,
anytime I can write for gophnx.com, I would love to do it, and I wish I can get out there. One of my I don't want to say regrets, but it's typical that the owners meeting alternates between Florida and Arizona. I look forward to getting to Scottsdale every year, every other year. It's not in Scottsdale this year, so I need the NFL to send me to Scottsdale at some point.
Yeah, we need it to happen. Look, Florida, it's not that tough of an assignment down there in, was it Palm Beach? Yeah. So, yeah, you'll make
Palm
do,
Beach,
I'm sure. Yeah, you'll make do.
There you go. So, seriously.
Thanks, Zach, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
Unbelievable stuff from our guy, Zach Berman, of course, covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody better at doing it than him, giving you some tremendous insight there. The knee thing, that stands out to me, that this was a high school injury. People talk about it being a degenerative knee. Is that going to be a big issue? Should that deter for the Cardinals and other potential free agent suitors from going after Josh Sweat? And it's just been a non-issue for over a decade. So that's good news there. Let's get more into the Sweat signing, more into the Milton Williams saga sweepstakes, all coming up next here on PHNX Cardinals. Yeah, let's talk about, sunshine out here in the Valley of the Sun. Why not get yourself some Shady Rays, some beautiful premium polarized shades that are not going to break the bank. No, of course, Shady Rays, they like to have their price point well under $100, so you can save some of that money for all the adventuring you want to do, but still, you're not going to compromise how cool you're going to look. Shady Rays, independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Tons of people going to battle, going to vouch for our friends over at Shady Rays, and they should, because these sunglasses are durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. You're hitting maybe a spring training game coming up. Why not hit the berm with the coolest sunglasses you can find at a great price point? Friends over at Shady Rays. If your shades go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacement program. If you lose your shades, exchange it for a new pair and return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team is always going to have your back. Check them out. PHNX viewers and listeners, go to ShadyRays.com. Save 35% off polarized sunglasses with the code PHNX. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so use that code PHNX today at ShadyRays.com. Love Shady Rays, what they're doing, putting some great Lakeland sunglasses on your face. Also, let's check out our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We got a brand new edge rusher. Why not go check them out with our watch parties that we've been going on the last 2 seasons over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I miss them. Might have some news regarding our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Future date with us may become this spring. And also you got your March matchups going on with Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You got to check them out. The BetMGM Sportsbook. They've got the perfect setup for every fan. Reserve seating at Wild Horse Pass and Santan Mountain. Enjoy the excitement with open seating at Lone Butte and Vequeva. Bet on the madness and experience the thrill. We got the link going down in the show notes, but check that out. Also, you've got the sneakers, stories, and style, the collection by Gila River. So many things going on. You don't want to miss out on it. Like, how about Mike Bibby's personal collection that spans decades of rare limited edition releases and exclusive colorways straight from the vault. You do you. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Yeah, you can go play some games there too. The sports book, as well as all the great table games. Go check them out. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playGila.com for more details. Drop a like as we continue our emergency podcast. We haven't had any breaking news while we've been on air, been keeping tabs. We have seen the Chargers add a cornerback, Dante Jackson. Goes from playing in Carolina to L.A. He'll be playing for Jim Harbaugh. That's a 2-year, $13 million deal. That's a minimal deal. Also, the Cardinals had a couple minimal deals today. They re-signed Evan Brown and Calvin Beachum, running it back as far as the offensive line goes. As Monty Ossenfort told us in Indy, they're expecting Jonah Williams to be available for them. They're excited to see what he has year 2 in the deal that he signed a year ago last offseason. But the Cardinals, Calvin Beachum, Evan Brown's going to slide back into his left guard spot. Looks like Isaiah Adams is going to be a second-year starter at right guard. And then they've got, Yelda Froholt at center. Paris Johnson Jr. is fantastic as far as playing left tackle. But, yeah, we'll see what's coming up for the Cardinals. I think they'll continue to look at the defensive front 7. They missed out on Milton Williams at the interior spot. So could they go and tap in on some of these veterans that made their way to the open market? Laramie Tunsil was just traded to the Commanders. So the Commanders' big offseason continues.
How about that trade?
Tunsil goes. Debo Samuel earlier. They signed Javon Kinlaw to a big deal. Bobby Wagner they retained. So we're looking at what was what was going to Houston there. 2nd rounder, 4th rounder, 3rd rounder, and a 7th rounder. So the 3rd is this year, and so is the 7th. 2nd rounder is next draft. But that was a hefty price to pay, though. They want to protect their number 1 asset there in Jaden Daniels, offensive rookie of the year. Pajaro saying Adam Pierce on another level from Monty. Way more aggressive, that's for sure. As far as his team building, he loves to build in free agency and via trades, where Monty Ossenfort is more geared up towards really kind of tooling his roster in the draft.
What's the cap number now?
For the Cardinals?
Yeah.
So they were just about 76, and now if you just kind of start, we'll see how Josh Sweat's contract is loaded up. But if he's going to make about $19 million per season, you can they're going to still probably be about $50+ million to deal with, even with all the maneuvering they're doing with their own players that they re-sign. Let's bring him on. Let's see how much cake he's put down, how much sugary sweets he's put down in the last hour. Our guy, Johnny Venerable. Get him on here. Johnny, instant reaction.
What a day. What a life.
It was looking a little bleak there, my man.
I'm feeling great. I had a special delivery from one Coach Starks, friend of the program, part of the program. And just it's time. It's, I don't like to eat on air. Bo doesn't allow me to eat on air, but
this is a special occasion.
We're cashing in, baby. My kids are like, "Oh, let's get some of that," and I say, "Get away from me."
Cheers that up.
Let's do it.
Yep, there it is.
Oh my God, the cream cheese frosting. I could live in it. You could bathe in it.
Yeah, you might want to consult a doctor after this, maybe a dietitian.
I got real problems.
Let's talk about the what we're here for, the emergency podcast. The Cardinals getting on the board with one Sweaty J. Josh Sweat, he brings his 10 total sacks, including the postseason and Super Bowl, to the table. His 11 sacks that he had under Jonathan Gannon in 2022 immediately elevates the floor there in this pass rush room.
Yeah, it was a chaotic morning. If you tuned into our show last night, kind of laid it out of what we thought it would go, and I think we were mostly proven right. We talked about, didn't expect the Milton Williams deal to get done first thing, right? And then the more people that you talk to, it's, kind of up for grabs as it relates to what was their next target. I didn't have the information that they would pivot from Milton Williams to Josh Sweat so fast. I thought after the Baron Browning acquisition yesterday, like I asked somebody, I said, you think it's safe to put out that they're off on Josh Sweat? And they were told no. And so we didn't run with that. And I'm glad we didn't. But I'm not going to come here and say, like, I saw this coming. Here's what we saw coming. They were all in on Milton Williams this morning. And they tried for about 2.5 hours to get that deal done.
Yeah.
And where it looked the bleakest was when Carolina, Bo, was in a position to outbid the Cardinals. Didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Fiscally, recruiting-wise. And then what inevitably happened was what we thought last night could happen. The Patriots paid him $26 million. The Patriots were prepared to pay him more than that. Like, you saw Diana Rossini's reports, like they were not going to be denied. So, I mean, who's to say they wouldn't have paid him 27 or 28? And we were told the sweet spot for Arizona was 21, 22, 23. So that's frustrating. Here's something you also have to keep in mind. With both of these free agents, where are they coming from, Bo? Philadelphia. Okay. They were free agents when? This morning. From where? Philadelphia. What happened 2 years ago? And I'm just piecing this together, but I think it's an interesting exercise to walk through. What happened 2 years ago in the offseason? The Philadelphia Eagles slapped the Cardinals with a tampering charge.
Right.
Do you think there was any chance that Monty Ossenford and Jonathan Gannon were going to potentially sabotage free agency with a Philadelphia Eagles player, talking to them early? Like, other deals got done 9 a.m. this morning, right? I would imagine, and I'm just guessing here, that the Cardinals were probably starting from scratch with both of those players outside of maybe preliminary stuff with their agents.
Well,
and
that's the way that it rolled out. I mean, with Diana Rossini basically saying the Carolina Panthers, who had effective cap space, which was like a couple bucks, some change, and a bus ticket, and they're like front runners for Milton Williams, which was shocking to everybody. And you got, Monty Ossenfort with $77, almost $80 million in cap space, and the Patriots, who we knew were linked to Milton Williams. It was very strange. So it must have just been a matter of who got him on the phone first, and his representation wanted to make a deal and then realized, hey, he could push this thing. And it sounded like it was an exhausting negotiation that did put the Cardinals almost at a disadvantage to be aggressive outside of Milton Williams. And to your point, it's probably pretty surprising they were able to pivot to Josh Sweat as quick as they did.
I mean, what did it take? About 45 minutes, not even, to do the deal. And again, depending on who you talk to, Sweat. Let's contextualize this for a second. You've done a great job kicking off the show with it. The bigger need was edge rusher. The better player was Milton Williams. Milton Williams, and this is not to say they couldn't go out and sign Hargraves or somebody like that. Milton Williams felt like a special circumstance. Like, we don't love their defensive tackles, but they have some. Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, Darius Robinson, Dante Stills. We love D-Rob. But, like, they could play a game today with that group. After, and they could be respectable. The pass rush group is the worst in the NFL, even after Baron Browning. I do not believe Zaven Collins. They don't view Zaven Collins as a starting player. It's a nice rotational piece. I don't think they view Baron Browning in a perfect world as a starting player. Sweat's a starter. Okay, so you've checked that box, and you got him for considerably less. He is not a better player than Milton Williams. I think his ceiling is lower, but he is infinitely, two things can be true. That can be true, and he's infinitely better than anything you had. And if you're banking on him reuniting with Jonathan Gannon and becoming a 9, 10, 11, 12 sack guy, highlighted in your program for 2 years, 3 years, that's a win of a deal. Like this is a good deal for the Cardinals, right? Milton Williams would have been better. They weren't going to pay $27 million. Okay, so give them credit where credit's due. This is the first 4-year contract this franchise has given out to a free agent in 10 years. Let me repeat that. Since Mike Iupati signed in 2015. So it's not nothing. People are acting like this is a nothing. This is a step. And maybe it was too much to ask for, even with the ties to JG, Bo, for the Cardinals giving their history and giving Ossenford trying to ramp it up a little bit to get the top free agent overall. That was always asking a lot. We pointed that out on yesterday's show.
Right. Well, and it was also the ultimate fear realized, where It's like you're going to be there and you're going to be able to present your best offer and you're going to be able to push the limits as far as your pocketbook, your salary cap. But there was always going to be that team. There was just a few teams ahead of them as far as cap space, and New England was one of them that had the ability to trump whatever they were going to offer and then some, because they have this outrageous amount of cap space because nobody wanted to go to the Patriots when they were this dumpster fire of an organization, when they had, a lame duck head coach, and now, Vrabel has legitimized them a little bit, and made them, a organization that people are going to take phone calls from. And if you're going to offer them, come over the top with $26 million. The thing I like, stick it on the Milton Williams thing before we really kind of get back into the Josh Sweat. It's just that, here we go again. It was Monty not willing to, write a fat check, or Monty or Michael Bidwell's a cheap ownership. Like that narrative, like miss me with that narrative. They were sitting there at the negotiation table until the bitter end. And then there was the Patriots with their paddle ready to go up at any time the auctioneer was going to go up a price. That's it. I mean, you weren't going to outbid the New England Patriots in this as far as Milton Williams. It's just, that's the reality.
No, put it in the article Saturday night. It was like the Patriots are the biggest threat. And then there's Carolina, and Arizona's in the mix. And I think I put in the Vikings, who look like they're going to sign Jonathan Allen potentially. He's in their building. The Patriots have no good players. Like, name me a good player on the Patriots that's making like big, like to your point, that couldn't get received. Last year, they were going to give Brandon Ayuk a monster deal, and he wouldn't take it. So this is kind of a perfect storm. And again, depending on who you talk to, like, would the Cardinals have outbid Carolina? I think so. I think at the end of the day, guys, you just got to contextualize the fact that they were in it, they tried, they were aggressive, and they pivoted, and they got their second target, which by all accounts was Josh Sweat. You're not always going to get the top tier guy. And this franchise, we have to celebrate these kind of wins, right? Because here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to come on the show and poo-poo them from signing Josh Sweat, because it represents too many things, in my opinion, positive direction. Super Bowl champion, best pass rusher, Bo, as you mentioned, on the free agent market, right? Didn't overpay him. Anything under $20 million, I think, is reasonable. The guarantee's not crazy. And then you think about he was easily like, I'll come play for Jonathan Gannon again. Those are all wins for this franchise. Every team in the NFL has contracts that they like, they don't love. Just that's where the Cardinals are probably at with this. But you know what? If he produces, nobody cares.
And you might have been busy just really just stuffing your face with Skittles and any kind of sweet treats you can find. Your cake there, your delicious cake, thanks to our guy, Coach Stark. But Zach Berman from PHLY Eagles joined me and just said, like, this is a 3-down edge rusher. This is a guy that can do everything that Jonathan Gannon wants his edge rusher to be able to do. He's sound against the run. He's sound coming off the edge. He's got upside as far as the pass rush goes. I know the numbers, everybody wants more out of him just because they see the physical traits. And then you'll see, like, the ability to cover, the ability to just be disruptive. That's not necessarily going to show up as far as sacks, but he's going to be a guy that is going to do everything that JG and Nick Rawlis want from that position. It raises the talent floor. We're not saying this is Myles Garrett. We're not saying this is Max Crosby. This is not Micah Parsons, but this is already coming in. Is going to be your default best pass rusher that you're going to be able to put out there on the field if you need to, 3 downs. But now, like, because how JG and Rawlis like to run their rotation, it's going to work better for Josh Sweat coming in. He can get probably right around 55 to 60% of the snaps instead of 70% of the snaps. He can kind of maybe have a little bit more left in the tank. And it already kind of changes the complexion of your defense, because now if you add anything else on top of this, you go with 16th overall, you take a Walter Nolan, or you take a James Pierce Jr. or a Mike Green, or you take somebody 47th overall. I mean, your defensive front seven looks light years better than what it's been the last 2 years.
Baron Browning cannot be a marquee player on your defensive line, like a highlighted player. But, like, can Baron Browning be like your worst starter on your front four? That's a start. Think about where the Cardinals entered last August, September to where they're at right now. Zaven Collins, Dennis Gardeck, Bilal Nichols, like, none of those guys are starting. Some of those guys might not be here, right? I mean, we fast forward to September, best case scenario. Josh Sweat, Darius Robinson, a first-round defensive tackle, or a Hargraves or somebody like that, probably a first-round defensive tackle, and Baron Browning, right? And then you could flip the DT and the edge rusher. I mean, like, the guys who have been in this building the last 18 months are backups. They should be backups. As we continue to break things down here, here on PHNX Cardinals. But I do think listen, at the end of the day, I just feel like this move represents so much more than just, hey, they upgraded an edge rusher. I feel like it signifies. I feel like it signifies for Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford that they can close on free agents, right? Like Josh Sweat had a market. Like, get out of here with he didn't have a market. Like, Washington was in on him, other teams. Like, we had heard rumblings leading up, and he was like, guys, fair or not, he was a top 10 free agent on everybody's big board. PFF, ESPN. He was number 2 on ours. Like, I'm not going to throw water on this. Is it disappointing they didn't get Milton Williams? Of course.
Yeah.
But they landed their backup plan. Most years, it's like they don't get the backup to the backup, and then we're sitting here and they're signing guys, and half the people, we don't know who they are. Or they overpay for those guys.
Yeah.
So I would rather them, if this is the strategy every year, I will applaud them. Because as Benjamin Albright, who called this, by the way, on our show a couple of weeks ago, said, you're paying A money for B players. And I think that encapsulates it. Like, I think Josh Sweat is a B to B plus player, and you're paying him A money. But here's the thing. Like, you get a first-round edge rusher to go with him. That edge rusher is your speed guy, and Sweat's your effort, your power guy, your all three down guy. You're suddenly in really good shape in a position unit that was egregiously bad for the last 3 years.
You still want some juice, somebody maybe in the draft that you can take at 16 or 47 that's going to give you some pass rush upside. I think that's still lacking as far as that room goes, but it's been elevated tremendously with the addition of Josh Sweat. So we're not going to turn on the mics in the cameras and poo-poo this move by any means. And just because we're disappointed that, Mike Vrabel and his FU money, as far as cap goes, the Patriots were able to get it done. And congratulations on them. And we'll see, how that ages for them. I think Milton Williams is going to be a good player for us. Was it Christian Barrymore up there? Is if he's healthy?
Yeah.
It's a pretty decent defensive line. They don't have anybody coming off the edge. But, like you said, I like what you said. I mean, I think Sweat, the edge was the biggest need. Milton Williams was the better player.
Yeah.
But to be able to land one of those two guys and then still have cap space to really kind of work on this roster, continue to fill out the rotation. I think they could add another edge. We talked about defensive back as those names start to go off the board a little bit. Maybe add some depth to the secondary. And then, we'll see what they do as far as the offensive line. They did bring back Evan Brown and Kelvin Beachum, which are just checking boxes. So now anything you add on top of that, you're adding basically on top of the roster that finished 8-9 last season.
We know that they're going to add a veteran corner within the next couple of days. We were told they liked the kid out of Baltimore that just got a contract, I think, with the Jets, Brandon Stevens. Not necessarily, that's the kind of type they're looking for, tall, rangy, athletic, under 30 years old, those kind of players. So keep an eye on a veteran corner on probably a multi-year deal. I think it'll be a multi-year deal.
Yeah.
Evan Brown, again, savvy signing. If the Evan Brown thing is really interesting with Ossenford, because as much as we have given him heat, rightfully so, on what he's done up front defensively, every one of his offensive line signings, save for Jonah Williams, TBD, has been money. Froldholt, Hernandez, Brown last year, Kelvin Beachum comes back. If you've got a good thing, don't mess with it. And they have a good thing with that offensive line. Isaiah Adams, I know people with the team are super high on him. Gannon told us super high on him. So I go get another Isaiah Adams. Take a right tackle in the second round. This just gives you a bunch of options. But the offense is basically a finished product, save if you want to add a receiver. They go play a game tomorrow. It's the same group that they'll enter training camp with that were last year. The defense is where they'll continue to really chip away, Bo. And I do feel like They got this done fast enough, and this market's moving. Malcolm Kuhn signs a 1-year contract to go back with the Raiders, $12 million. It's being broken now. Let's see if they can find some diamond in the rough signings here defensively just to layer, because you know they're going defensive line probably at 16. They got to get an off-ball linebacker because your White remains unsigned. I have no idea. People are asking me, has that ship sailed? I have no idea. I think Cardinal fans would love to have him back, but that market's got a little goofy.
Right.
So I don't think they're done. They're not done. They got a ton of money left. This is just the first domino.
They need to know is Khariz Tonga, as Jackson pointed out here in the chat, according to Ian Rappaport, Khariz Tonga is signing a 1-year deal with the Patriots. It's not a big loss for the Cardinals. I think it's a place you want to upgrade, but he was kind of really their as far as his build, their true nose tackle that they had on that roster. But that's not unexpected. We didn't hear anything that Khariz Tonga was going to be reunited with this team after the 1 year he spent in the desert. So, yeah, you got to find some beef in the interior of the defensive line still. DB, off-ball linebackers. Johnny puts down another piece of cake. You're out of control. You're just right back into it. Just right back up. You fell off the bike. You're back on the wagon.
Gannon said I could do 1 day a week. Sorry, not
this
sorry.
Your 1 day?
My coach said I could do it. He said it was okay. Just like I said it was okay if he wanted to sign Josh.
I already broke his rule. I'm punishing caffeine after 10 a.m.
What'd you go with, by the way? I didn't see what you went with.
Just a cold brew, just a tiny one. I wanted to ease back into it. So, just a tiny little cold brew in my Polar Pop mug here from Circle K.
You're a sweetheart. You're a sweetheart, sir.
Let's continue to talk about maybe also some big-time NFC West moves here and more on the Cardinals signing Josh Sweat here on PHNX Cardinals. You love to see it. Our friends over at Cornbread Hemp, they're doing some really great things over there. You got to check them out right now. If you're looking for a healthier way to relieve aches, pains while getting better night's sleep, why not check in with Cornbread Hemp's USDA organic CBD gummies? Cornbread offers the first USDA organic CBD gummy in the United States of America. You got to check them out because their gummies are the highest quality full spectrum gummies on the market. And look, they're third-party lab tested for potency. Obviously, you've got no contaminants. You got the vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, no artificial flavors or preservatives. And look, Cornbread offers free shipping and backs all their products with their 30-day Better Life guarantee. Take Cornbread's 2-minute quiz and get custom recommendations tailored to your needs. If you're looking for a certain experience, whether it's for aches, pains, sleep support, or stress relief, if you just want to give Cornbread a try. They're offering PHNX listeners 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use the promo code PHNX at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use the code PHNX for 30% off your first order. This is the good life with our friends over at Cornbread Hemp. Also want to tell you about our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union. Monty, awesome for it. He's spending the money. Josh Sweat's going to have to find a nice financial credit union to put all those dollars that he's earned himself today. Why not check in, of course, to Arizona's longest financial credit union? That's Arizona's Desert Financial Credit Union, the only place you can show your team spirit every time you make a purchase with their exclusive debit cards branded with your favorite teams, including the Cards, ASU, and AU. It's been over 84 years. Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted credit union, creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. Check them out right now. Checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. Join a credit union that is more committed to giving back to the community and sharing success with the members. When you open a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses and get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Love that from our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union. Also, banger of a deal going on right now. Johnny dropped an article, which is free to everybody. He's the man of the people. Go PHNX.com. Had a little free agent primer. A lot of that information came to fruition. Shocking. Just a fanboy in his computer typing away insight. But if you want full access to Go PHNX.com, become a diehard today for a low price of $36. That's it. Cutting this thing, slashing it in half, and you get access to the exclusive member Discord, which has been on fire. Johnny, you said this last night on our pod, like it outpaces you. Like you and I try to get in that and we get stiff-armed to the floor because they're having such an intense
like, shut up,
conversation.
idiots.
Yeah, like get out of here, nerd. We don't want anything. We're talking ball here. You want insight? You want to access the exclusive member Discord? Get it for a full year, $36. That's all it costs you becoming a diehard today.
Yeah. In that article, I pointed out the Cardinals aren't worried about, I don't know. I know you talked about this with PHLY earlier, but Cardinals aren't worried about Josh Sweat's knees. I think they're just, it was always about ceiling pertaining to salary and what they could get in the draft. But here's the deal. Is Josh Sweat better than a draft pick in May? 100%, right? Is Josh Sweat better than that draft pick next May? May or may not be true, right?
Yeah.
They could draft an edge rusher, and I hope they do, that eventually eclipses Josh Sweat. But Josh Sweat is the baton that gets them there, and it keeps them viable. What you couldn't do is what you've been doing the last 2 off seasons where, hey, BJ Ojulari, you're going to have to save our pass rush. Hey, Darius Robinson, you're going to have to save our defensive tackle group. This allows them to just say, hey, rookie, hey, James Pierce Jr., hey, Mikel Williams, or whomever it is, either kid from Ohio State, maybe Mike Green, although probably not. Hey, buddy, come in here and just help us in the role that we assigned to you and grow and develop as a player. Yeah. We've got Baron Browning. We've got Josh Sweat. Zaven Collins is a terrific run defender. Come in here and help us on third down. Give us some juice, right? You know, when you've got a 5th-round rookie in Xavier Thomas last year being asked to play the kind of snaps that he was, and I get it, injuries happen, that's an indictment on Austin Ford last year. And so we broke it down. First 2 off seasons under Austin Ford, especially last year, they missed the boat on edge rushers. They didn't add any. What were their 2 moves of note outside of the couple offensive linemen? They have re-signed a pass rusher for $7.5 million, and they added another one at just under 20. Is it an overcorrection? Sure, but it's a mandate if they want to get to where they want to go in 2025.
Yeah, look, the big contract, obviously, that they're dealing with ease is Kyler Murray's, $45+ million cap hit, right? And that's because they've drafted guys that are making no money. And then they're retaining guys at below market value. When you're getting your starting left guard, 2 years, $11.5 million, like Evan Brown is, like you have the flexibility to really do whatever you want. I love this from the chat, and we'll get to your super chats here shortly. But Ozzy just saying you can learn from Josh Sweat. Absolutely, this is a guy that's been playing the position at a high level. You got some youngsters in there. Hopefully, BJ Ojulari gets healthier, and he's a guy that can learn from a 3-down pass rusher like Josh Sweat. He provides a veteran to that room. Hasn't been there. We haven't had a veteran pass rush presence. Like Zaven was just trying to learn the position. BJ Ojulari was a rookie. And then you had these like fringe roster types that were holding up. Like the only guy that you could learn from really was like Dennis Gardeck. And I know you're going to hate that.
Yeah. Well, I don't hate it. It's about player versus expectation, right? Josh Sweat, by the way, you talk about this room being filled with guys and a lot of them that aren't healthy. Baron Browning, injury concerns a little bit, but not too bad. Zaven Collins doesn't miss games. Baron Browning doesn't miss games. Baron Browning, on average, since 2021, has played 90+% of the games. He had a full season last year. This year, he just missed 1 game, and I think it was the week the Eagles sat out in week 17. He plays every week. Like, I know we touted that for Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones last year, but I think this rings true with Sweat. So it's like raising the floor of what you have. You had nothing comparable to this guy. 8 sacks could easily become 10 with Gannon and Rollis, right? He's competing with time with Bryce Huff, which that was a disaster, as our guy Zach said. It was a disaster with Nolan Smith early. He couldn't get pressure.
Right.
I just feel like when you've got a guy like Josh Sweat in a division with Sam Darnold now, who can't really move a ton, and now we're talking about Brock Purdy and, of course, Stafford. It's like Josh Sweat can get to 10 sacks in this defense. No doubt about it.
And he can be as disruptive as Gannon and Rollis want him to be. I mean, we get lost in the sauce as far as the sack numbers, and people were like, well, Travis Kelce was a revolving door that let Sweat get, one of his sacks. But like Sweat was, as Zach Berman pointed out, instrumental as far as creating the pressure to force Patrick Mahomes to throw a brutal pass to Cooper DeJean for a pick six. Like that play was made by Josh Sweat. And that play was made by a guy that didn't exist in the Cardinals pass rush room last season or the season before that. And it puts guys like I see Darius Robinson his name coming in the chat quite a bit today. And most of you saying it's absolutely right. Like guys like Darius Robinson and Mac Wilson, who have this versatility, you can lean into that even more so going forward. It puts them back into their normal roles to where it becomes kind of once you slide them in, if they are all going to come off the edge, it doesn't have to become a necessity. Like these guys can now do that, and it kind of gets its juice back because you've got guys that can rush the passer otherwise 2 to 3 downs like Josh Sweat.
Yeah, no doubt. Like the Cardinals last year is like we were watching that game even in Miami. They just didn't have options, right? Yeah. And there's a reason, and we've talked about it, that they lost 9 of their losses, 8 of them were against playoff teams. They just had better players and probably better quarterbacks or playoff caliber quarterbacks. Well, how do you guys, like Kyler Murray was made human by the Seattle Seahawks and Leonard Williams and the pressure that they put on him. And Geno Smith just had to keep the train on the tracks in those 2 games. Those 2 games cost the Cardinals the NFC West.
Yeah.
They couldn't get pressure on Geno, and Seattle got pressure on Kyler Murray. And that was the difference, right? And so now the Cardinals are going to try to flip that script by improving both lines of scrimmage. But I think they're going to get better organically, offensively, with more time and continuity defensively. You couldn't ask Rollins and company to do more with what they had last year. I mean, they had a 3-game homestand where they didn't give up a touchdown with a front seven that a lot of people still rank as the worst in the NFL. So any move is an upgrade. That's what this offseason should be called. Any move is better than what they have. It's just varying levels, right? And Milton Williams was the blue chipper. And I think Josh Sweat is in the tier right below that. Still very good. Still an upgrade. Like, again, we did this podcast every single day since the end of the year. Most anybody would have signed up for Josh Sweat today.
Yeah.
But I think it hurts a little bit more because we knew how deep they were with Milton Williams. But maybe it'll work out. I'm hopeful. And I also think it would behoove them to continue to be proactive to see if there's value up front for more defensive linemen. I think Austin Ford, where you have to be careful, is, well, we got Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols coming back. They didn't look good last year. Nichols didn't look good when he was healthy, and Jones wasn't healthy. Cardinal fans don't want to hear about 2 guys that are making good money this year that didn't play much last year as being the saviors at that position group. Go get a grown-up to play next to Darius Robinson, who has seen some things in the NFL, like a Hargraves, like a Jonathan Allen, right? Bears signed Grady Jarrett. He was cut an hour ago. They gave him $45 million. I'm not saying go do that, but see if there's an opportunity to say, well, we're going to bring some more pressure, and then we're still going to be open to Walter Nolan or whomever in the first round. Let's not allow the salary cap and what you did last year, the mistakes of 2024 in free agency, to dictate your moves now, Monty. We don't want to do that.
I do like that the Cardinals are putting themselves in a position to where they're not going to rely on like a trio of guys. And this isn't a knock on those guys. It's just that you have to be forward thinking as far as how you're going to finally fix this big area of weakness, your pass rush, your defensive front seven. Like, you can't rely on any productivity from Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, and B.J. Ojulari. You just can't, because if you do, you're a bit naive as far as what to expect, because those guys, unfortunately, were not available last year. And anything I think you get from them next season is just icing on the cake. Now you just put yourself in a position like, okay, this is who we're going to rely on. Sweat. We're going to rely on hopefully somebody we get at 16 or 14 to help us really kind of generate pressure. And then if we've got these guys, now that we look at complementary roles, rotational guys, and if they add to it, then great.
Again, more news is coming out. The Niners could potentially be shopping both of their defensive linemen because they haven't released either Malik Collins or Javon Hargraves. Now, they could do it Wednesday, but that could impact the Hargraves market. I don't think anybody's claiming Hargraves, though, via trade. Maybe Malik Collins, but The Hargraves market may take a little longer to materialize. I'm told Jonathan Gannon and Javon Hargraves have a great relationship.
Right.
And again, I know he's a little older, but again, 32 years old. He just turned 32. He's not coming in here to be an every down player, but can you get like an eighth inning fastball from him? Because you know what he did with Gannon in 2022. He did the Josh Sweat. He had 11 sacks. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying get the old band back together, but Josh Sweat's only year with double-digit sacks, Gannon. Same thing with Javon Hargraves. So to me, if you're just asking me as a fan, like what makes the most sense, that makes the most sense to go out and get a guy. And if you have to pivot off of one of these defensive linemen that you have right now, so be it. Because outside of Darius Robinson, no one is untouchable in that group. You know, Roy Lopez is still a free agent. Dante Stills is a good player, but he's young. I mean, they got some options now.
Yeah. Ozzie Gannon knows how to play D lineman. Absolutely does. Love to see it. Let's go into some of our super chats. Let's get into it. Do you have any thoughts on the Sam Darnold signing?
I think that it's easy to sit here and say like that's hilarious because we were at his last game and he was unplayable against the Rams. And when the pressure got on them with the division on the line against the Lions and then that playoff game, which it wasn't really a home game for the Rams. There's a ton of Vikings at State Farm Stadium. He could not manufacture offense. Now we saw how good that Rams defense ended up being, but now he's got to face that Rams defense twice a year. I have major concerns with Sam Darnold without Kevin O'Connell, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson. As good as Smith and Jigba is, I think you're probably going to get Geno Smith production with maybe a few more turnovers. All that to say, Darnold was better than Kyler Murray last year. So it would be rude to just sit here and completely dismiss him. But I think that for the money that they gave, they're trying to get younger at the position and take a swing. Like, I can't knock them for that. The Seattle's a well-run franchise. So they got a second for DK Metcalf. We feel like they're going to take a wide receiver early. And here's what can't be disputed. Mike, what's his name? Not Mike McDonald. Yeah, he knows how to coach defense. He's an elite defensive head coach. That defense was unbelievable in the second half of last year. So,
and their ties to Clint Kubiak as far as the offensive system that he was running in Minnesota, and the previous, wasn't Kubiak also associated with the Niners when
he was his OC in
so I mean, he's going to be familiar with it. You just hope that continuing to see ghosts like he was against the Rams in the play. I'm sure the Rams were just like, oh great, bring him. We would love to face him twice a year. But as far as the Cardinals, they need to continue to build this front seven to where they can be one of those teams like the Rams that turn a guy like Sam Darnold, who when he's not facing pressure, he's an above average quarterback, to where he's a pedestrian to below average when he is, pressured and kind of getting off his spot. That's what they want to do, and they want to force the ball up and into compromising situations and take it down. But yeah, they get Sam Darnold. There's a kind of a new era now in Seattle, and it's going to be kind of a defensive-minded, smash-mouth football, and then hope that Darnold can be the game manager there. But look, Seattle's making their intentions known. They didn't want to settle for what Geno Smith had provided them the last couple of seasons. They want a little higher ceiling than that, so they go with a guy who's the same age as Kyler Murray and Sam Darnold, and coming off a 35-touchdown performance and playing the defensive side of the football. And the Rams going after Devontae Adams, adding him with what they got there going with Puka and Matt Stafford, who just signed the last contract probably of his NFL career. They're going for it. So NFC West teams making their intentions known. Arizona Cardinals with this move along with them. Now this is a good tone setter. You got to continue it. You got plenty of money to spend. You got to do it and continue to kind of add to this foundation and get yourself to the draft time to where it's like, okay, anything we add on this that can make us scarier than before.
Well said. You have to flush that defensive line group. Purdy, Darnold, Stafford, get them uncomfortable. Like they can't move that well. And two of those three quarterbacks are prone to turnovers. Hell, Matthew Stafford threw some bad picks last year. You can't. With the way the Cardinals' defensive line was constructed, Bo, the last 2 years, it felt like you were going in already a huge deficit. Make that unit a strength of the team for once. And today was a positive step in that direction. You want to read off some of these super chats, Bo?
Let's do that. And a reminder, we're going to be live at 4:30 again, right? We're double dipping.
We're back. Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. Love it. How about Tyler H. leading us off here? Monty is just built different. Like that. I mean, there was a lot of Monty discourse on the Twitter streets today before the Josh Sweat deal came down. It was iffy, but look, if the reports are true and our guy Johnny Venerable is dialed in, it seems like he was right there at the table vying for Milton Williams and just had a number that he wasn't willing to go above, and the Patriots ended up coming out with Williams.
Yeah, there's a local media member now that's saying that Josh Sweat was always their top target. Like, you can believe that if you want. That's not 100%. That's inaccurate, false. Now, they could have gotten both players. With Benjamin Albright told us on our show that your buddy that you're blocked from, saying that Sweat was always the top target. Does it count as if it was their top target when they were offering $5 to $7 million more per year for a different player? Come on now. It's okay to not be right about everything. Right. It's okay to just, like, I love Josh Weinfuss. Josh Weinfuss putting out that he's not a good, Milton Williams isn't a good scheme fit. What the hell are you talking about? He played for, even Gannon picked him. They run the same defense. Come on.
Sweat, no matter what, baby.
I love you, Josh. What is that tweet? What is that
Sweaty
tweet?
J. Come on, guys. Let's use our brains.
We're going to contextualize it from everybody. I think it's important, as we got 1,000 people watching on YouTube alone, that there are people who want to discredit what Bo and I do every day, and they will put out false narratives to do that, because before it became public that the Cardinals were trying to win Milton Williams' service, everybody was like, see, the Cardinals were never interested. It's like, no, they were. Okay, do some research. There's 2 people on this show who do the research every day, and you're looking at them right now.
That's some violent typing there. Josh, $2. Bo has the jitters after getting caffeine back. No doubt about it. I am feeling it a little bit. I'm a little shaky now, but it's the best. It is the best to have caffeine back in my life. And Johnny, did you already put back that whole bunt cake?
No, there's so much left. I'm trying to enjoy it. You guys like make me out to be some wild animal. Look at this thing. It's huge. It's as big as my head. I'm really enjoying it, though. Coach Starks, he does it right. The cream cheese frosting. So much good stuff going on.
That Circle K cold brew, man. It hits.
It hits the spot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Sam went digital, $1.99. Now get Trey. So here's what my thoughts on Trey Hendrickson, and you might have different insight. I have none. I'm just speculating. Is that the Cardinals would probably rather take an edge rusher in the draft with one of their first 2 picks than give up a pick and then sign Trey Hendrickson to a big money extension.
Yeah, I would say it's less likely. I wouldn't discount it completely, though, because I think the Cardinals showed you today, like, our pass rush room needs a lot of work. Like, I think if they were content with their room, they would have just said, let's go get a draft pick. Let's stick with a first round edge rusher. We're going to find out with Monty Ossenford, how much does he put a priority on the long game, and how much does he want to win how much is it going to eat at him that he's not going to be in a position to win the NFC West unless he takes some big swings? Like, do you want to just concede this division to the Rams? Trey Hendrickson would be announcing to the NFC West that you're trying to win the division and be a player in the NFC. I think Sweat's move helps you get to the playoffs, but I think everything's still on the table. I think they could trade for a defensive tackle. Yeah. That position group was so bad. Like, somebody told us at the combine that position group, when they watched it and they broke it down on film, okay, just somebody in the national media, that the Cardinals had very few players, if any, that could win one-on-one. Right. So it's like, okay, well, then everything's on. If the media knows that, then the Cardinals know that.
In this game of matchups, and you can look across a couple, a lot of teams have bad offensive linemen that have to start games. And this game of matchups, you get the matchup you want, you still can't win. And that's got to be frustrating as a play caller, that you can't dial up anything when you need it and get, the negative play to just get your defense off the field. I completely agree with that. That Indigenous Daddy, $2. What do you think about getting Landon Jackson? I love it. Big 6'7" edge out of Arkansas. He's one of the guys that I think Fran Duffy agrees would be a great fit for JG and Nick Rollis' defensive scheme. The one thing I like when we talk about Hendrickson, and I know like Landon Jackson would be a great draft target. Like if the Bengals continue to be notoriously slow as they are in getting any business done, like ideally, like, as much as you want to get a player that caliber on your roster, like would it benefit for them to make a post-draft move? So now you're not dealing with draft picks this year, you're dealing with next year's draft capital, which, if you're just going off the trends, you hope the Cardinals have more wins, they're in the playoffs, and the draft picks in the 20s.
I think this Josh Sweat deal is going to age well, in part because they're not paying anybody yet. I mean, like Trey McBride and Kyler Murray are going to be your two highest paid players probably next year, with maybe some Sweat mixed in. But outside of that, like I think Sean Murphy-Bunting is in the last year of his deal. He's got 2 years left. I think this will be it for Sean. I think this will be it for Bilal Nichols. I think this will be it for Justin Jones. Then outside of that, like who you're not paying. James Conner and Budda Baker are on 2-year deals. James is basically on a 1-year deal. Like you have so much cap flexibility. That's why it was like laughable when people were suggesting like 4 years for Sweat. That's a little rich. I'm sorry. What league do you cover? Like every team has cap space. These numbers were always going to be crazy.
Right. Diego Perez, that caffeine hitting like illegal substance. Hold the line. Love this from our guy. Becoming a regular here. Easy Money Chubbs. Can a diehard get a follow? Let's do it. Tag us on Twitter if you don't mind, my guy.
Tag us, bro.
Panda with the wings. Give me Sweaty J over Gardeck Collins any day. There's a great point.
Raise the floor from what your position group looked like. It's like 2 years ago, it was Michael Wilson basically alone in the receiving room, and then they added Marv, right? And then Trey took the next step, and suddenly that group's, I think, about ready to explode this year, hopefully. 2 years ago, this pass rush group, I mean, remember we were doing shows in 2023, and we're like, who can they even trot out at that position? It was really Ojulari or bust, and then we were watching BJ Ojulari in a fourth preseason game, and he could barely get through a fourth preseason game. And it's like, man, they are so far away from that. Now, did they wait too long? 100%. They should have signed Jonathan Grenard or Daniil Hunter last year. Ojulari went down. That's unfortunate, but they got some juice now. I wouldn't stop there. If another pass, I like Reddick, we haven't talked about this. Pour one out for my guy, Hassan Reddick, who got a nice deal with Todd Bowles, Bowles
doesn't need anything poured out. Guy's doing just fine.
Yeah, 14 million, 18 million, whatever it was. Todd Bowles will take care of Hassan Reddick. He'll redo his image. But if there's another, I'm serious. If there's another pass rusher that becomes available, I would pursue that person. It's DEFCON 1 at the Cardinals defensive line. That's how bad it was.
My guy, the Mac Daddy from Yuma, he's checking in. How's BJ's recovery? I personally still have hope he will be a high-level player. Happy to see the suffering stop for the boys. What's next? ? I haven't seen BJ Ojulari since being able to cover the team at the end of the regular season. He was in there rehabbing. Looked like he was in good spirits. Like you can confidently say like the guy didn't experience any kind of setbacks. Looks like he's on a good path to returning. And we'll see if maybe he can even get in by training camp. That would be ideal for the Cardinals. But what's next? I mean, we've said it. Off-ball linebacker, I think, is somewhere you want to go. Continue to address the interior of the defensive line. You still have seats open in the pass rush room. And as you mentioned, Johnny, defensive backs.
Yep, they're going to sign a veteran corner here in the next day or so, I believe, to a multi-year contract. But just raise the talent floor defensively. Better caliber athletes, more explosive. I think they got a great group of about 4 or 5 guys defensively with Darius and then Max Melton, Garrett Williams. They got Taylor Demerson. Now it's just kind of even that out a little bit. But this rebuild, you've mentioned it, Bo. You've used that R word many times. Was going to take 3 full off seasons. So we ought to be able to get to May, look at this roster at wholesale value and be like, this is a playoff roster, right? They were close last year, didn't have enough gusto to get it done over the last 7 games. This needs to be on paper a playoff roster firmly in May. Now, a lot of that is going to be on the quarterback, but it's a conversation for another day.
Continue. Hit that like button. Approaching 300. We need to eclipse that here quickly. I think Johnny will finish his cake if you do get over 300 here in the next couple minutes. Danny Redbirds, $9.99. Thank you for the generous super check, my guy. What does it say here? Ben gone from the pod a long time. I'm back to celebrate. Here's a tenner for the big signing. It's patty cake time with Damon and the boys.
What do you think Damon's doing right now?
I think he's in hell driving back from Vegas right now. Relieved that he doesn't have to work out when he gets back. But, you know, that drive from Vegas after a long weekend, celebrating your buddy who's a bachelor, there's no place I'd least likely
the young
like
buck
to be.
Pulled a veteran move, and he's requested tomorrow off as well to recover. So
did he really?
Huh?
Deny it. Make him come to work.
Sitting in that car, going up and down. Oh my God!
It's the worst drive in the history of drives. MP, a resident Bears fan, welcome MP. Look, your team has had a solid, awesome offseason. I think Ryan Poles has done a great job.
Yeah, check in MP with our guy Steve Keim. The resume of building offensive lines in free agency always goes well, especially with older players. Definitely going to see that produced for the Chicago Bears this year, no doubt.
I can't deny it though. I mean, as far as what was available, and when he went out and got Tooney, the center from the Falcons, and Jonah Jackson. I mean, Ben Johnson has brought some legitimacy to Chicago, and then they they're not a high school coach. Grady Jarrett's going to be a difference maker up front, but
no, that's an overpay. They're not a high school coach team anymore. That's for sure. That the Bears team that came to State Farm Stadium was an absolute disaster class. We all laughed at them.
I can't wait to see the Joe Tooney reverse pass. It's going to be legit. Libertarian Sasquatch, who came back from 2 ACL tears and played good.
Does Ojulari have 2 ACL tears?
He had a procedure on his knee, but it wasn't an ACL tear. I mean, obviously he was able to play his rookie season, but he did have did he have one in college? He might have had one in college. Who's had multiple that's played well?
Sweat hasn't had multiple.
Who's that?
It's not Sweat he's referring to, right?
No.
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll have to look that one up.
We need JV to smash that bunt cake and Bo to stone cold beer chug that cold brew. I won't be able to actually formulate a sentence come the show 4:30 if I put down any more caffeine.
4:30. If you think we're gross now, wait till 4:30.
Yeah. Lou, $199. Who would you guys like for them to sign next? Johnny, anybody on your list, on the short list?
Shane, do you have our top free agents available?
No, I can try to find it though.
No problem. And that ain't no problem. I have no idea if they're in. I would love to see them go steal Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers. Nothing suggests they're in on Dre Greenlaw. If you're just asking me my personal preference, I would want to steal from a division rival on a player that they covet, who is an ass kicker, who is a tone setter, and continue to flesh out that front seven with impact makers. I would go get Dre Greenlaw. I would trump whatever the Niners are giving Dre Greenlaw.
Just haven't seen them attached to Greenlaw. I saw about 5 teams deep, and the Cardinals were not mentioned. It just seems like he's going to be a future Texan and reunite there with his old DC. Top
Makes
10
sense.
free agents. So we haven't seen a Will Fries signing, correct? I don't think the Cardinals are going to be in the Will Fries business.
Last I heard that he was talking to Minnesota.
Vikings going to try to go there. So Dalton Risner could be available. Milton Williams signed. Sweat signed.
Beckton is available.
Reddick signed. Kuntz signed. McLeal Mack re-signed. Tevin Jenkins is available. Christian Kirk got traded. Dre Greenlaw, we just talked about him. So this list is almost Dunsky, and you have to get to your next wave, which we'll get into that probably tomorrow, the next wave of free agents. Didi, hit that like for Bo, JV, and Didi. Damon Dog. Thank you, Didi. Hit that like for Didi.
Hit that like for Didi. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of you.
Need an inside off-ball linebacker that can cover. Draft is real thin. I agree. There's
my dad was texting me about the Bama inside linebacker pick 16, and I told him, I said, I can't entertain what you're
Jahad Campbell.
Right, sending me pictures of his workout and just freak shit. And I'm like, I'm sure he's good. Yeah, I'm sure he's good. Let's not do this, though. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we had the conversation with Fran Duffy who wanted to mock him, and we said, look,
we can't.
You will get ratioed to oblivion. Girthquake, $4.99. Is it better to draft an edge and take a subpar group to good group, or draft a guy like Tyler Booker and make your O-line into a top 10 group?
I think edge. I think to make the playoffs, you have to be able to get pressure with 4. Cardinals' offensive line is good. The Cardinals' O-line was one of the best position units on the team last year, and I think it has a chance to be maybe better this year. You're going to get a better version of Paris. Jonah Williams hopefully will be healthy. Like Isaiah Adams could turn into a good player. The Cardinals' O-line played good enough to make the playoffs last year. The Cardinals' defensive line was the worst in the NFL. You have to keep going there. Yeah, and lean into that. That's the strength of this class. Don't take a guard over an edge rusher.
Here's what I'll say about Booker. He scored terribly at the combine. He's a massive man. He scored athletically. As far as his RAS scores were terrible. It did not look good. And then you look at the history of Bama offensive linemen. I think you stay away, especially if it's going to cost you a first-round pick. Maybe even 47 might be too high. But look, you can, with the re-signings, and to Johnny's point, how well that group played, how cohesive it is, and how as consistent as it's been, I think you have the ability to maybe take somebody, late day 2, early day 3, and develop them now. And they've shown the ability to draft and develop offensive linemen. I think they've gotten, a pair in back-to-back drafts in Paris and now Isaiah Adams. ID the Mike 91. Get Dre Greenlaw, and this will be an A+ free agency.
I don't know if I can do A+ without Milton Williams, but it would be an A. And listen, too, I mean, there's some receivers out there that are intriguing as well that we'll talk about. Our next wave will probably have some wideouts. But that you do not have a starting off-ball linebacker to go next to Mack Wilson Sr. Like, it's all about, like, could you play a game? You play a game on offense. You have all your starters taken care of. Defensively, I think you can make it. Like, Justin Jones can start. No one wants him to, but he can start. You don't have a starter at off-ball linebacker. So I'm with you, Mike. You got to go get one. And that was already a group that I didn't have a name before this started, and a bunch of guys got overpaid. So, I mean, can they pull their voodoo witchcraft again and get another Mack Wilson Sr.? That I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
Quentin getting interesting here. Is it outrageous to grab Javon Holland, and move Buddha or JT? It's just, you're not going to be able to move. First off, you're not going to trade Buddha, and I don't think anybody's going to take on Jalen Thompson's contract. If you moved them, it would be via cap casualty. I just don't think they're going to be in the Javon Holland market.
I mean, like they don't need to cut Jalen Thompson right now. They haven't signed anybody that would warrant that. I think that the only time you would say I need more money is if you traded for Trey Hendrickson, or if you got Milton Williams and you wanted to get a Sweat. And I think we all just assume right now Sweat's going to be their most expensive free agent. Like, everything else after that will be less. So they don't need, if they want Jalen Thompson on the team, and by all accounts they do, he'll be on the team.
Brandon, $1.99. Johnny got his bag of candy. He's got it ready. Absolutely.
I got Sour Patch Watermelon. I've got Nerd Clusters. I've got Score Bars. Yeah, it's a treasure trove. My kids are at my door trying to get. You ever have a Score Bar? It's like a Heath bar.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
I like some toffee. It's a strange one to highlight, but yeah.
Okay. Well, to each their own.
That means you're a big time sicko if you're feasting on some Score Bars.
I gotta go.
Seamanich. Bit random, but what about Elijah Moore in the slot? I don't hate it.
No. High upside based on where he was drafted, and he's got played in Cleveland. Well, Cardinals have fingerprints all over the Browns, so I think you're barking up the right tree. I think it'll be like that kind of move. Because listen, right now Greg Dortch did not get tendered as a restricted free agent, right? And neither did Jesse Luketa.
That was reported, yeah.
Those guys are just go get them if you want them for other teams. So I think that's the Cardinals way of telling you we're gonna try to add. Like, what's the Cardinals pass rush group under contract right now? Sweat, Browning, Zaven Collins, Xavier Thomas, B.J. Ojulari. So they got 5.
Yeah.
So they got room for one more. unless they wanted to get rid of somebody.
I mean, there's going to be competition. I think they'll, and that competition looks way better than where it was last year. Louis Vasquez, 199. Should the Cards go after Jonathan Allen? Yeah, I think absolutely. If they get an opportunity, Jonathan Allen, according to Tom Pelissaro, was visiting with the Vikings, but no deal has been reached as of yet. So yeah, I think you reach out to him, but also you look at the Commanders were willing to part ways with Jonathan Allen and then give Javon Kinlaw, who Adam Peters, I know, was part of the drafting out of South Carolina. They gave him $45 million, but apparently they viewed Kinlaw as an upgrade over Jonathan Allen. So that's a bit of a red flag to me.
Kinlaw's contract for 4.5 sacks was wild. That was pretty wild. A lot of people in San Francisco thought he was just an outright bust. So Cardinals would have immense competition for Allen, and that's what happens with you put your eggs in the Milton Williams basket to start with. Like you got to play some catch up with some of these other guys, but yeah, we'll see.
Joey Kennedy making a draft recommendation, Oklahoma linebacker Danny Stutzman in the third.
I mean, definitely take an off-ball linebacker in the top 100, but typically what we've seen is they like to go with a veteran. I mean, who's the guy that Gannon had? Was it with went to the Bears? Was it Mike Edwards?
Yeah.
Did he get released? Is he still in Chicago?
Oh, TJ Edwards? We'll see what they do. We got some breaking news, not to the Cardinals, but Eagles are trading Kenny Pickett to the Browns for a 5th-round pick and Dorian Thomas Robinson. DTR is now an Eagle. Kenny Pickett is now a Brown.
Horrifying. Those are the kind of horrifying moves where I know people aren't in love with Kyler Murray here on March 10th, but guys, if you guys have been paying attention.
Are the Browns going to start Kenny Pickett?
If they want to go 0-17, yeah. But you know what? At least Myles Garrett got paid. At least Myles Garrett got his $40 million.
AZ Moses, what about Divine Diablo at IBL?
Maybe. I like this next one. Easy Money Chubbs, 199. Kime would give Dre Greenlaw $100 million. He would not give him $100 million.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, nobody had Mac Wilson Sr. last year. They kept that under wraps. I got nothing right now on these off-ball linebackers. If you're the Cardinals, I would think to this next super chat, what's the latest with Kazir White? I think that they should entertain bringing him back. If his market cools down where he's not under contract today or tomorrow, it's just probably best for both parties to do another deal, do another 2-year deal.
Revisit it. Yeah, see where he's at, see where the team is. But still a lot of moves to be made. First wave almost done. Still some big names out there. Hopefully something breaks between now and 4:30. We can talk about something new, but otherwise, we're still coming back. We're going to talk more about the signing of Josh Sweat, missing out on the Milton Williams sweepstakes, and where this Cardinals team could spend more of its cap space. It's a banner day here for PHNX Cardinals. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. You're following along at PHNX_Cardinals on Twitter and Instagram. Also following our guy, Johnny Venerable, myself, Bo Brock. Big ups to our guy, Shane Deef, getting us up and live just after 1 o'clock for this emergency pod. Can't wait to talk some more ball with you. Thank you for all your super chats and your chats. You guys were on fire. Let's keep it going again today at 4:30. Join us again. Another live show here on PHNX Cards. We'll talk to you guys soon.
We all silly like the mayor.